you who don't know me, I'm Patrick Anderson, and I am your state senator, and I've been your state senator now for about a year. I took over shortly before Senator Myers passed away, but that's basically the time frame when I became the senator for Alfalfa County. Jeff does a wonderful job at the legislature representing Alfalfa County and Cherokee and everywhere else that his district goes. In Hewitt, the big metropolis Hewitt, and Lambert too, right?
The Twin Cities.
The Twin Cities. And he does a great job, especially, particularly public safety issues, working on those. I do a good job of irritating the governor, primarily. Jeff talked about some bond issue deals. I have, in the last year or so, been very involved in stopping some bad bond issues that I thought were being pushed on us. One in particular had to do with the city of Tulsa. In 2009, the legislature passed a $25 million bond issue that was to be matched with $50 million from the federal government, and it was going to be building a series of what they call low water dams, basically be similar to the dam at Great Salt Plains. They would just kind of back up water. And what they wanted to do was the Arkansas River that goes through Sand Springs and Tulsa, they wanted to basically hold water back in it so that it would have water in it all the time. What they do right now is they release water at night, and at 10 o'clock at night the river looks beautiful, but by 8 o'clock in the morning the water's all gone downstream and it's back to its muddy state that you typically see when you drive by it. And this was promoted as going to create 9,000 jobs, and it was going to do $2.8 billion of economic growth for the state of Oklahoma. So spending $25 million towards that seemed like a reasonable thing to do. Well, that was in 2009, and it never happened. The federal money never matched it, and so the project never happened. Well, about January of 2012, a year ago, the city of Tulsa came up and said, hey, the legislature authorized this $25 million, and we didn't get that project done, but we've got this other this other dam that we need to get repaired, and we'd like to spend that $25 million on that. So they got the governor to push that through the process, and I ended up challenging that in court, and had the unique experience of standing in front of the full Supreme Court in a full hearing. We have 9 Supreme Court justices, and it's kind of rare that they have oral arguments where you stand up and plead your case, but I got to do that, and it's the first time I'd ever done that. And it's a very impressive thing, Judge, when you see all 9 justices come out from behind the curtains, and the bailiff tells everybody, hear ye, all rise. The Supreme Court is now in session. It's a pretty impressive sight. A little nerve-wracking if you're the person standing in front of them. But I was able to stand up and argue that the taxpayers in Alfalfa County shouldn't be paying for a dam that was owned by the city of Tulsa, which kind of skipped ahead to part of the story. All the project that they were wanting to do was basically just to enhance a city park in Tulsa. And basically it was land that was going to be, they were just raising the level of the dam by 3 feet, so that the level of the lake would get a little bit deeper, and it'd be a little prettier, and $25 million of your taxpayer money. So I got to stand up and argue that the taxpayers in Alfalfa County didn't need to be forced to pay for the Tulsa's city project. And the Supreme Court agreed with me, and in fact we got all 9 Supreme Court justices ruled in my favor, and we killed that bond project. And then the other projects that we've been dealing with in bond issues that I've been highly involved with has to do with the medical examiner's office. And we have a medical examiner's office in Oklahoma City that needs some repairs. There's no question about that. But my argument has been we need to bring that project in front of the legislature and let us review it and make a decision on what we need to do. What they've been trying to do is run the bond through what's called the Master Lease Program. The Master Lease Program is a bond program that's allowed for colleges and universities to spend money on if they need to buy air conditioners for buildings, or if they need to, repair roofs. That's the reason that program was originated. Well, some legislators found out about it. In this program, these projects never come in front of the legislature for approval. They're just authorized and they take place. And the legislature never votes on them. The people never vote on them. They just take place. Well, that program has really grown from what it's only been around for about 10 years, and they've already issued $600 million in bonds under this program. And most of these projects, well, all of them probably have been very legitimate projects. But one of them, a legislator in Oklahoma City grabbed a hold of it and instructed one of the universities to put in a $42 million project for building a medical examiner's office. Well, now you're creating a new building for a state agency, which has never been done in the program. And so for the last, actually 3 years, I've been fighting that project. And finally this year, they've brought it forward as a measure in the legislature for the legislature to consider. And so hopefully we will look at that. I would tell you that the designs for this $42 million building that we're going to build, it was going to be $1,000 per square foot. That's pretty good construction costs. And we think, well, I believe at least, that the legislature will be better stewards of those dollars if we have a chance to look at it and review it and make sure that this is money being well spent. So again, we do need that project, and we'll move forward on it. The Capitol building, as Jeff's already alluded to, has some major repair needs that need to be taken care of, and hopefully we'll find a way to get that done, whether it's through his measure or some other way to address those issues as we move forward. Another big issue that we're talking about this year at the Capitol is workers' comp reform. Seems like we do that quite a bit, but what we're really pushing this year is to move from the adversarial system where we have a workers' comp court to an administrative system. And in Oklahoma and Tennessee are the only two states that have the adversarial system, the court system that we have currently. Most all the other states have switched over to an administrative system. And so that's what is before us right now. And we just got that out of the committee and the Senate side earlier this week. And it'll be a process that will go on for the entire session before we come up with the final version of what it'll be. But so that's kind of one of the major pieces of legislation we're seeing on the Senate side. Taxes, a lot of taxes, discussion about what we should do with that. Our revenues are up primarily because of all the oil and gas activity in northwest Oklahoma. And one of the things that Jeff and I try to remind everybody is that all this wonderful revenue is coming from this part of the state, and we do all we can to try to get more of that money into roads and bridges, and trying to get those construction projects taken care of, because we know, we drive down the roads too. We see what's happening up here, and if you're going out of Enid towards Medford on Highway 81, you will if you're starting to doze off, it'll wake you up because it is so rough as you go down that highway. So what we do with the revenue, education spending, I think is a big issue. The governor came out with her budget, her executive budget, which had a very small amount in new spending for education. I know that on the Senate side, we're wanting to spend more than that. We've had population growth in Oklahoma, and if you compare where we are today from where we were 4 years ago, we've got 10,000 more students in our public schools, and because of budget cuts that we've had in the past, we're spending $400 per student less than we were 4 years ago. So we're asking the schools to do more with less funds, and we have to find a way to get more money into the schools. And I think that's certainly a priority, I think, of both chambers. It wasn't a priority in the governor's budget, but that'll certainly be something I think that we will be trying to address and increase as we go along. got appointed to I like to tell this story, a new committee this year. I was appointed as the chairman of the Appropriations Subcommittee for non-appropriated agencies. And at first I thought that was a joke. And then they painted it on my door. And I think people walked by and started laughing because I'm Appropriations Subcommittee for non-appropriated agencies. What in the world is that? So they did change the name. They now call it select agencies. After they painted it on my door, they decided it looked pretty bad. But what we are doing is looking at all these different agencies and commissions that we have in the state that do not get appropriated dollars, but they go and they assess a fee to individuals that do licensing and things like that. An example would be the accountants all participate in a license through the Oklahoma Accountancy Board. That's an agency that comes before us. But there's 43 agencies that have been assigned to my committee to review, and that's going to consume quite a bit of our time doing that. And I think it's a worthwhile thing to do because it hadn't been done for several years. And so we'll be focusing a little bit on that, seeing if there's any consolidation that might need to take place, or any other changes that we can to help modernize the state government. I also serve on the Judiciary Committee, Business and Commerce. I serve on the Veterans Committee and on the Pensions Committee. And that's another big issue that we're looking at is our pensions liability. For years, the legislature would grant cost of living increases to our retirees, but we never would fund them. So what we're basically doing is paying for them out of the principal in their pension funds, and that created this unfunded liability. Basically, we were never putting enough money in, so we were taking more money out, and we've stopped that practice now. But we have about a $10 billion, I think is the figure, unfunded liability for these pension programs. So we're always we're working very hard and trying to find a way to get more funding into these systems. One proposal that's already making its way through the Senate, at least regarding firefighters. We have about 7 different pension systems, but the firefighters have one, the police departments have one, the troopers have one, state employees have one, teacher retirement, which is our largest unfunded one, judicial branch has one. I'm probably missing one there, but anyway, we're trying to make sure we get those needs addressed. We're working on a proposal to increase contributions to the firefighters, because it's the worst funded one. The biggest liability is in teachers, but the firefighters is the worst funded. So trying to address those issues to make sure we're making good, sound financial decisions for the state. That is a huge issue. If you follow what's been going on in some other states, California, Illinois, their pension systems are a huge problem for their budgets. We want to make sure that doesn't happen in Oklahoma, and that we address this before the problem gets any worse. And so those are kind of some of the big issues that I see us working on in the legislature.